The two reasons why I actually really like to travel. Everybody knows my story. If you watch my videos, you see my stories. I work a full-time job in corporate, and then I also do short-term rentals on the side. And travel was the thing that kind of, became my new passion. And today I'm gonna talk about the two reasons why travel became a passion for me. And so I'm not chasing the big car anymore. I'm not chasing the big house anymore. You can actually watch my video where I talked about me moving out of my dream house because my perspective changed on life. The possibilities for me is, what if I could create a situation where I could live in a different country 3 or 4 different times a year? Just think about that. Think about that possibility. That's what actually became my new passion. Today, I want to take a step back from all of my traveling that I've been doing, just to talk about the two reasons why I actually really like to travel. One of the things I talk about in some of my other videos is kind of my motivation that led me into travel. And it started with, the love that I have for basketball with my daughter, and then, helping her get through her basketball career in high school and college. And then I transitioned that passion into real estate and then ultimately traveling. And so last night I was having a conversation with my nephew, and we were just talking about some of the different things that, kind of drive me to do some of the things I do. And, he was basically telling me, he was like, "Oh man, you're so successful. You should be kind of putting it out there and, showing everybody what you're doing." And And I told him I have a little bit of different perspective on it, right? I get it. He's in his mid-20s. And, when you're in your mid-20s, like, you're at a different stage in life, right? So I'm already past the point in life where I'm really wanting any type of validation from anybody. Like, I don't need validation for people to say, "Hey, Chris has money. Chris is doing this. Chris is doing that." The only thing I really care about is for people to be like, "Hey, Chris takes care of his family. He got his stuff together." Like, that's how I want people to look at me, right? If people thinking I have money comes along with that, that's cool, but that's not something that I'm really focused on. So I was telling him, like, for him, he needs to really think about, like, at a young age, really, like, what your why is in life, and not just your why. Like, what are you passionate about, so you could turn that into a goal that you could strive for. Because, what happens as we go through this journey of life, you're going to come up on points where you're going to struggle. And when you have your why, or your motivation, or your goals, or your passions, it's going to help you get through those times and get through to the other side. So, for example, for me, everybody knows my story. If you watch my videos, you see my stories. I work a full-time job in corporate, and then I also do short-term rentals on the side. And travel was the thing that kind of, became my new passion. And today I'm gonna talk about the two reasons why travel became a passion for me. And so the first reason that travel became a passion for me is perspective. I'm a person who loves to have a good debate, right? I love to look at a different perspective from somebody else. I want people to challenge my views and my point of views. It doesn't get me mad. It gets me happy. It energizes me. I want to have a good conversation about, why you think a certain way and why I think a certain way. I actually love to talk about politics. I just don't talk about it because my job, and that's not something I really want to put out there. And not for like the divisiveness, but more for the debate on the topics. It's definitely an interesting dynamic. But for me, travel became a passion of mine because, when you get out of your own bubble, right? We all live in our own bubble. So, and what I mean by bubble is, in this age of social media, we are all in our social media bubbles. So what that means is, whatever you look at on your phone, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, the algorithm is going to push certain things to you, right? And so those things that it pushed to you, it's going to keep you in that ecosystem. And so for me, I love travel. And so when I started to look at travel the algorithm started pushing a lot of different travel related things to me. And I started seeing folks that were in different countries, and they were having a different perspective on life. And so for me, I wanted that. I was like, me being a person I am, I wanted to challenge my perspective on like how great my life is. Now, I do think I have a good life here in the US, but I did want to challenge that perspective. And so the first place I started going really was, of course, I did some stuff local here in, Florida and things like that. But I went out of the country and I went to Mexico. And when I went to Mexico, man, it was just really just so eye opening. And what I mean by that is it was eye opening to see how people were very simple, that were ultra happy, right? And for me, that's a big thing because I like simplicity. And so when you see a lot of people that are very happy, living very simple lives at mass, right? Because that's not something you see here in the US. You don't see people at mass living a simple life that's happy, especially if you live in the urban areas. You're going to see people that, they may be happy, but they're not really living a simple life, right? So those type of people are definitely going to have their own. They're going to have a little cute little girl tried to give me a flower just now, and I was kind of mad I couldn't accept it, but it was definitely a cute moment that could have been caught off camera. But anyways, people are living these simple lives in Mexico overseas, and they were just so happy. And as I got more into that algorithm, I started seeing more and more people in different countries, right? Thailand, Vietnam, all of these places all over the world that, that we were all led to believe were a certain type of way. They weren't safe. And then you find out it's something different. And so because of that, my curiosity just started peaking. Then I started taking flights to Mexico, bought a property in Mexico, did all different types of things because of my curiosity and my perspective. And and really what it did was it not only challenged my perspective, it really changed my perspective because here in the US, it's really easy to, chase the shiny object, to have the biggest house, to have the nicest car, to have the nicest clothes and jewelry. And I still like some of that stuff. You can see I got my little chain on right now, and I got nice clothes on, that I wear every once in a while. But that's not what my life is all about now, right? And so I'm not chasing the big car anymore. I'm not chasing the big house anymore. You can actually watch my video where I talked about me moving out of my dream house because my perspective changed on life. And so the first reason is perspective. So the second reason is possibilities. And I'm a visionary. I'm a big dreamer. And I think most people that are self-employed, that are entrepreneurial spirited, they're big thinkers, they're big visionaries, they're people who we picture the world in a different way. We picture our life in a different way, right? Because that's what everything has to start with. It has to start with a dream. And then you try to make that dream a reality, right? And so that's what I've done with my business, right? So the possibilities for me is, what if I could create a situation where I could live in a different country 3 or 4 different times a year? Just think about that. Think about that possibility. That's what actually became my new passion. Everything I'm doing right now is to create that new possibility for myself. What if you could live in 4 different countries a year? What if you don't ever have to go through a winter ever again for the rest of your life? Those are the possibilities that like fuel my motivation, right? So when I go to work and my boss says something crazy to me, I don't go off the handle, because at the end of the day, I'm like, this is not my end game. This is just part of the journey, right? Or in my short-term rental business, when a customer or a guest says something crazy, I don't go crazy, because I'm like, this is not my end game. This is just all part of the process of trying to get to where I want to go. And what happens is nothing becomes more important than the goal. And so because of that, because the goal is so powerful, it drives everything that you do. And so what happens is, and this is my theory, I think a lot of people in life kind of just go through life without any true goals and no true passions. And when you do that, it makes it hard for you to be able to, go through the tough times. And so for me, like I said, I want the possibility of that, and I'm going to do everything I can to actually get through that. So tell me what you guys think. For me, those are the 2 reasons why I love to travel. One is the perspective that I get looking at different cultures, understanding how they're so happy, living simple lives, and then also the possibilities of what my life could be like if I'm able to make those changes and achieve those goals. So those are my reasons to travel. Drop in the comments. What are your 2 reasons, 2 or 3 reasons that you actually like to travel? Or what type of goals that you actually have that you're actually driving toward? And if you like content like this, man, subscribe to my channel, man. I talk about this. I do a lot of different travel content. And I also talk about, ways to make money. On my other channel, Cash Flow with Chris, you guys can check that out. I talk about my short-term rental business and the things that I'm doing to kind of grow that, the kind of steps that I took. And, you guys could kind of look at some of that and see what you could do about, what you possibly would want to do to grow your business. So anyways, like, comment, subscribe. You guys have a great day. We'll chat soon. Peace.